Alrighty, so we got rolling.
There we go.
Here we go.
Okay, thank you guys for coming out today.
You're welcome. Thanks for hosting, Ken.
No problem at all. So this is the very first podcast ever done. Gonna try call it the Uncle Ken Show, or we'll change the title
Classic.
and the brand over time. Today I was thinking, let's try not to make this like Joe Rogan at all. I want to put my own little twist on it to make sure everyone has a fun time.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
How do we make it not like Joe Rogan?
We do exactly the opposite.
What? Okay. Yeah. So we just don't get high.
Yeah, let's stay sober for the majority of this podcast. We might need a drink afterwards. But for the most part, I thought I'd bring you out all here today, guys. You guys have been great help along the journey, and I'm sure the road travels very far. So I thought I might as well say, how do we all meet?
How did we all meet? I know how I met you,
I know
Ariel.
how I met both of you.
You,
Mm-hmm.
I honestly don't have memory of
No?
right now.
All right. Well, why don't I introduce you guys first, because that's a very important start. Otherwise, our viewers won't know who's listening. So today, I'm joined by Ariel Jade from Project 305. You prefer Ariel Jade, right?
Yeah, Ariel Jade's good.
Awesome. And then I'm joined by Rodney Raffer from Hoodrat.
Yes, hello.
Hoodrat Driftco or Hoodrat DC?
Yeah, Hoodrat DC.
Okay,
That's the original.
awesome. So I'll do a little intro of both of you guys. If I could say anything, Ariel, admin queen, but also probably soon to be hair of one of Perth's most elaborate and, how could I say, concise and well-organised car meets or whatever you want to do. I know you'll go in the right places.
Yeah, thank you.
No problem. And with Rodney, I know you're going somewhere. I want to make sure it's the right places, and I think you deserve them 100%.
Definitely going to be the right places, and thank you.
That's why we're here.
Yes, it is.
Alrighty. So we'll start off with how we all met. Perhaps we just get to start with, I don't really know how we all met. Maybe we retrace the steps and have a chat with each other.
So,
Yeah.
I think I tried to throw a track day,
Yes.
Yes.
and not knowing at the time what that consisted of or where that was going to go, we put out a Facebook post, and we've met some of the greatest people I've met in my life ever since.
Nice.
It's a good way to start it. So meeting Uncle Ken's through the WA86 club at the time, which was my club, and Rodney, who stole the show by
No, thanks.
yeah. Meeting Rodney was very interesting. We had put out an application form for free track entry at the time.
I'd seen your group or the post, and basically was setting up my little Stance Royalty event thing when I'd opened up and just messaged you to be like, oh, that's kind of interesting. You should come and have a look at this.
Yeah, so I wandered down to a compound in the middle of nowhere
Yep.
on a
Oh,
Friday night and ended up seeing one of the coolest little drift shows I've ever seen in Perth.
Oh, cheers.
It actually made me feel like I found a little bit of home for once.
Mm.
It was the start of a great friendship.
Oh, yeah. No, it's awesome. That was so much fun.
I think at some point I'd had a communications with you, Ariel, and I'd seen what you were building online. I think you were just starting out the Facebook group and Facebook page. And then for some reason you created a group chat. I can't quite remember the reason why. But this funny bloke called Rodney Raffer had really frizzy afro at the time.
It might come back. You never know.
Oh, I'd love to see that back. And I remember seeing that video and I was like, Jesus, I really want to hang out with these guys because not only do they do cool things like burnouts in a backyard at some private property, they got cool media, like a little interview going. They've got police rocking up to their doorstep and being like, oh, it's all good. Let's walk away. And I was just like, that is exactly what I'm looking for at this point in time.
Yeah, it's great fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, the cops love it. It's like they love what we're doing. I've got actually 2 officers that just pop round every now and then when they're on shift, just to see how everything's going and have a good yarn.
Yeah, absolutely.
Weirdest of times they pop in.
Yeah, so if that's how we met, I mean, where have we been? And firstly, how far have we come? Like, honestly, like when we think about it, like this has all been this year, right?
Yeah,
It's been just over 6 months.
it has been. Yeah,
Time has flown.
6 months. And
Yeah.
if I could say some of our achievements, I would probably say some of the big things, and this is only my side, this is where I see it. The Troy Candy thing was awesome, right?
Oh,
It
fantastic.
was a pretty awesome event. Errol's event, that's one of a kind. Like, I don't think I had seen like a proper privately hosted meet in Perth City, and that was at the Flex Fitness place. And even prior to that, you were planning the event, so we can dive more into those details. But I think we've definitely had a lot of hurdles. We've definitely had a lot of challenges, conflicts. They're always natural with any relationship or wherever we're trying to go. But really, end of the day, as long as we're all prospering, as long as we're all having a win and lifting each other up, I'm really happy. It's been a great ride.
And that's it. We found a collective community
Mm.
amongst so many different areas of motorsport and recreational motorsport or hooning.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, yeah, we all started working on separate areas and then realized, hang on, well, these guys are pretty cool. Let's just all work together.
Yeah. And the police event. Let's not
yeah.
forget the police event. That was pretty fun as well, right?
That was interesting.
Yeah.
That was very interesting to be part of, to witness, to be invited into a police station as presidents of car clubs that run street activities, and to be told that they like what we're doing in the community was life-changing.
Yeah. And we got a lot of good intel from that. So perhaps we could share some things with our viewers. I'm sure we have people listening in from other car clubs. If we want to share that stuff, I'm always open to sharing, but I know there's a certain level where we have to understand that we have our own businesses, we have our own enterprises. There is some information which is not privy to public eyes because we're still brewing. We got to capitalize off this.
As well as some things that were told to people within that vicinity
Yes.
that are not for the community.
Yes. That is very true.
As well as like bridging the gap between obviously a target audience and the well-known prosecutors of that target audience as well. There's a few boundaries that we have to first establish before
Correct.
we can share anything.
That's very true. So if I could say, it's been a bit of a roller coaster. We've had ups and downs, and oh my gosh, it's almost like we get to the highs, and then maybe the next day, the next week, we're like drooling over social media, and then it's like a sudden plummet and crash, right? I don't know if you guys experience this.
You never know what's coming, like being about the cars, but then having to learn about social media and what can be done, what can't be done, and dealing with reactions from the community and having to take into account all of those opinions as well.
When everyone has their own opinion behind a keyboard. Everybody.
We sure
They
do.
love to say what they think, but they won't say it to your face.
No.
And there's that saying, there's no such thing as bad advice. You either listen or you don't. And the outcome you kind of have to deal with at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So it's all part of navigating, and we take it day by day.
I guess it's all also a matter of action as well. So all the feedback that we get, we action most of it, but there's a certain segment which is out of our control, out of our power.
Being somebody that stayed very far from the car scene in general, like I'm more sort of the girl that would drive by myself to clear my mind, and now being under full exposure in the community, it's interesting, but it's been eye-opening to see how many people actually feel the same way about the cars. It doesn't matter whether you're a driver or a spectator or a creator in this community. We all have a certain space for vehicles.
Everyone's got their own reasons as to why they like them and why they go to any type of motorsport event. If it is just a car meet with your mates on a Monday night, or a proper race event, drift event, whatnot.
That's for sure. I mean, I remember probably half a decade ago, I was spending a lot of my time watching YouTube videos all around the car scene. One of the things that popped off to me was LA. And if we're going to compare like Perth to Los Angeles.
Well, you cannot compare.
No, because at the end of the day, I hate to say this and I'll say it a million times, Perth is a small town.
Mm-hmm.
It's the most isolated city in the world.
Oh dear.
Yep, it's a beautiful place in the middle of nowhere.
So I think part of all of our objectives is to put, and I'd like this whole town's objectives to put this city on the map, even
Yeah.
though it's such a quiet city. Right.
And we have the cars to do it. We have the people to do it. And the community are well and ready to get started putting things on the map. So.
Yeah. We have
Yeah.
some really cool cars. We've got some really cool people. We've got a really awesome audience and community. But I think part of this podcast is also showing the world that there is something going on in this small town.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not something comes out of it which can reach public eyes is another story, because there'll be people all over the world watching, and hopefully they're watching for the right reasons and they like what we're doing. Otherwise, we got to readjust what we're doing and maybe figure out if we should mold that to what the world wants or what we need.
It definitely is, Perth, motorsport, and in general, it's just a quiet little place.
Mm.
You know, we've got the raceways and we've got a few good bits and pieces. But
Some lenient police officers here and there.
mm-hmm, of course, yeah, as well as Australia is a pretty police state, but that's just part of it.
Nanny state.
Nanny state, that's it.
Yeah.
But, you know, we've just got to deal with it and
Yeah.
find out how to make it better for everyone.
Well, we're not really selling Perth, so why don't we sell a little bit? Because we've done some pretty amazing things. We've had some awesome achievements, right? One of the great ones, I think the latest ones, is probably getting Troy Candy on board, seeing what the Perth car scene's about,
And keeping him off the streets.
keeping him off the streets, because
Yeah.
that guy's gotten in a lot of trouble, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep, he's gone through his own rigmarole of
Mm.
it.
And it was pretty awesome. So why don't we just talk about, firstly, how we got that guy on board at the Hood Rat DC, which is your place.
Yeah. Okay. Well, with that, that was pretty interesting. So I had been contacted by Troy
Mm-hmm.
after our community had contacted him
Nice.
to let him know that there was somewhere to do skids when he came over. So then a few messages back and forth on Instagram and whatnot. Went to the Carco event that he was a part of. Caught up with him as he walked in the door and he pointed over at me. He's like, you, Rodney, I'm going to have to see you later.
Nice.
And it kind of just went from there.
Nice.
Yeah, it was interesting being on the way from Carco to Hoodrat and the police being parked outside before we even got back. That was quite interesting, but still being left to put on a show.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I think we were given a 20-minute window,
Roughly, yeah.
a
Mm-hmm.
few skits, and then got on with our day.
Yeah, you know, because you don't want to annoy everyone. I'm pretty close to residents and everything, so I like to keep it safe and happy for them.
Definitely.
So yeah, there's time limits and everything like that, and it was just have a quick little session, and then everyone went on with their day. That was exactly it.
That's it. And I mean, like, how far did that content go in that 20-minute window? I mean,
Oh.
how much awareness and how much noise do we make for
Mm-hmm.
that particular area, that culture that we have in the city?
Oh, huge.
There's
Yeah,
a
like-
lot of noise.
Hundreds of thousands of views on multiple different videos, multiple social media platforms.
I think one of the greatest things about what we've done in the city is the fact that the conversation about the events that we host go on a daily basis. It's been 6 months since our first event, and you know the stories still come back. You still see the photos, the content still pouring out, and it just goes to show that 20 minutes can be enough to change a few years of someone's life sometimes.
Absolutely.
That
It made
is
a massive
awesome.
impact.
Mm-hmm.
Massive impact.
And that's just the start.
Sure is.
You know, it's 6 months.
I think that
If
We
was,
got to
that.
keep working. Got to keep creating opportunities, chatting
Mhm.
with people, making sure things happen.
you know, to pull these events off in, you know, a couple of days notice or a couple of hours notice sometimes,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
like to leave with no injuries, no yellow stickers, no accidents.
Cool.
That's something that we should all be proud of.
Yeah.
You know, to have that impact and that control over a community that is packed with adrenaline,
Mm.
but still bring the same respect and safety and create an environment where it can be embraced, really.
Well, that's something that we've worked on kind of from the start is a go of mutual respect.
Yep.
And
100%.
that's sort of been pushed onto the community as well.
Yep.
Is you've got to respect what we're doing
Mm.
so that it can continue
Yep.
for everybody.
I think a good thing about how we all work together, how Errol, you and I, Rodney, you and I, like how we all work good as a team is we've had these individual catch-ups and we've kind of laid our objectives on the table saying, this is what I want to achieve, this is what I want. And kind of understanding all of our motives combined, I think that's really where we all mesh together and kind of saw it as like an opportunity, hey, I can leverage my time to film some content for Rodney. Rodney can leverage some of his time to film content for me. Ariel, you're yet to have some more recent events, but that's going to be the same reciprocal force.
That's it. And I think at the moment, being focused more on education and understanding why the laws are so hard and what we need to do to bridge that conversation with the community in the sense where it's not just a rule that's in place to stop the fun. It's a rule that's in place to save your life. And
There are reasons behind them.
yeah.
That's for sure.
And there's ways around them as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you do the right research and you come with the right attitude, no one's going to stop you from doing something that you love.
As long as it's safe and legal.
That's it. And you're accountable for your actions as well.
Yeah.
One of the first times, okay. One of the first times I actually noticed something happening was when Ariel had an event, and this was the event. What was it? This was the event that was. Were you there, Rodney? The very first event that she had, which actually created this catastrophe of what we call it a team now, right?
Yes. Yeah. A catastrophe of a team. There we go. So Ariel's first event, I didn't have the time to get to.
Oh, you weren't there?
I was setting up
I
my
see.
compound
Yeah.
within, probably a day's time frame to get everything ready for the after party or after show,
Yep.
as I say.
That's what it's about.
There we
Alright.
go.
This is why the cameras are rolling.
We have refreshments.
Ariel, do you want to show something to the cameras? We got bubble tea, by the way, guys.
Yes.
We need you sitting down to get on the mic. Let's share this around, eh? Let's get some sugar in our systems.
Oh, thank you, Eric.
Be buzzing around in a bit. Awesome.
Thank you.
This is a place for you guys to talk about and understand that everything that you're putting out here is for your viewers, your audience to know
Yeah.
about you, yourself and I. Me, myself and I. But you know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah.
It's all about you, Ken.
Yeah, it's all about
That's
me.
how it is.
That's how it
Holy
works.
Trinity, thank you. I think going back to the start of my story, I can wear it on my sleeve that I'm an impulsive person.
Mhm.
I've got a history with impulsive driving, reckless driving,
Mhm.
just impulsive behavior in general. Being labeled with ADHD, which I was diagnosed with at 19, I think,
Yep.
led me into a really interesting part of my life. And that included, 7 or 8 speeding fines a week until that point where, the car got impounded and I lost my safe space. My car has been the most consistent thing that I've had in my life. It's, an asset to some people, but it's a safe place for me. It's the place where you take your mask off. It's where you prepare, for what you're about to face for the day.
It's kind of one of the first spaces that you get,
Yeah.
realistically, isn't it?
It's essentially like your first house. It's different to a bedroom because you control it. It's a moving object. You can be flying at high speeds. You can be cruising down the beach.
You can't race a house, but you can sleep in a car.
That's it. That's it. And I mean, that's the best thing about it, because when you need a place to go and there's nowhere else to go, that's where I used to go.
Mm-hmm.
And then, losing my car was, it sounds like I'm being dramatic sometimes because it's just a stock 86, but it was the only place that I had to go. And it taught me a lot. So I lost my license for just under 2 years and I got hit with 2 convictions for it. And, being in accounting and being in a corporate world, it's kind of like, wow, I'm a convict now.
It's scary, yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
great.
because it's
You know,
on record.
that's it. And I mean, it's on record for the rest of your life. You get told, you get hit with this charge and you are guilty of it because you are doing it.
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter what the conversation is about how you justify that action. You were
You
doing
still
it.
chose to do it at the end of the day. So,
That's it.
Mhm.
And, in my mind, it was, I was having a bad day, or this frustrated me, or I was overtaking your truck because I just didn't want to be next to it.
It's scary.
Mhm.
End of the day, you get hit with the consequences. And to me, it was actually one of the best things that have happened. I grew up in South Africa, and there is no such thing as a raceway.
Mhm.
What we do is we shut down a section of the highway. The cops sit on the sidelines, and, you have your fun. If somebody misbehaves, then it gets shut down. And that's been a tradition in South Africa ever since I can remember. So coming over to Australia with that mindset of, yeah, the road is my raceway if I want it to be,
Yep.
you know? And then learning, no, it's not. Really,
Very, very different culture.
yes. And then, so I guess what I did was when I got my license back, I walked over to the raceway because that made sense. It's like, I'm not going to do this on the road ever again. Let's go see what it takes to go book out the raceway and have a day out where we just send it and have fun and blow off steam and do what we do on the street in a place where there's no repercussions for it. And, you know, that conversation went really well, you know. It was a really heavy bill, so I think I had set aside about $20,000 to get this all
For the
done.
first event.
The first initial track hire booking with all of the subcontracting to get ambulances done and recovery vehicles down. We were looking at about $20,000. And to me, because of what being impulsive meant to my personality, it was worth it. So I think I had about 4 or 5 friends that were interested in racing at the time. And we were going to do this for my birthday. And it was kind of like a gift being like, all right, you've controlled the fact that you are an impulsive person. You don't want to make that mistake again. And you've got a location to do it safely.
Yep.
So I think I started the conversation with 4 or 5 friends. And that had then echoed throughout our friend circles.
And grew.
And then somebody like me who had never thought about what racing or what driving had meant to other people, it popped a question into my head and I was like, all right, if this is such a big deal, then let's see how many people are interested in this track day, because I think we were going to hire it out for 8 hours and I don't need 8 hours of track time. I've
Not for
never been on a
yourself.
track before, you know, it's a stock car. Like, leave me with 8 hours, I won't come back with a car.
But those full-on track days, they're draining.
They are. And I mean, it's hot and, you know, there's only so much you can do. And then the amount of money that you need to have to keep your car going for 8 hours is a whole nother conversation.
Fuel, tires, etc.
And I didn't know anything about how any of that worked. So we put out a post on Facebook and all I said was, tell me who you are, what you do, and why you do it. And we had about 75 to 80 responses to that. And every single story was life-changing. You know, and that's how we met, Rodney. You were one of my first applicants to get onto the drift track.
That's right, yeah.
And yeah, straight away, I think it was maybe a day or two after I'd put that like post out and you invited me down to the compound and I didn't know what to expect. I was driving 40 minutes away from my house, just this girl that has never met this entire community before.
Yep.
And it was a bit of a leap of faith and it was one of the best decisions I made.
I'm glad that you did it as well because I half expected you not to turn up.
Yeah, you left me speechless. Like, I still remember that day, like every person that was at that compound and the energy that was alive in that space. It was like, it took me straight back home. And that was the first time in the 10 years that I've been here that I felt like it was home. And it just created all of this color in my mind. And it was like, I dropped everything. I quit my job, I dropped everything. And it became Project 305. And, you know, like, it was a little bit about bringing culture. It's a bit about bringing safety. It's a bit of everything, really. But
Building community.
that's it. And it's like, it just turned into a platform for people to chase what they love doing. It doesn't matter the context of it. We just want to try keep you safe and keep you encouraged.
Yeah. Wow.
It was, yeah, my whole life in the last 6 months, I'm nothing like the person that I was last year.
Definitely had a lot of growth, all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like that's beautiful. How that.
Like, you know, like, I'll be honest about it. I come from a really rough history with my mental health. You know, like being at war with the fact that you have all of these conditions and you have these traits in your personality, and when you need to filter it and when you can be yourself. And that's why it comes back to the car, because if I was angry, you'd be angry in the car and then you wipe it off your face and you go into your setting. But my car became my safe place. And this community that we've now found ever since this started has extended that safety. It's like I haven't pulled my car back onto the road in the last few months, but it doesn't make me sad not having that space because now I've got friends that understand that. It's like, It's
A lot of it, a lot of the things that we go through are pretty similar.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the reasons why we like our cars and go racing and bits and pieces, yeah.
That's it. Like, I mean, the first time I sat in the car when you were drifting, right?
Mm.
Like, I'm not a drifter. Like, I mean, I have studied the theory of vehicles, but, you know, being a girl from a conservative background, it was never really accepted for me to go get my hands dirty or for me to put my foot down. Like, I can here and there, but I've never really pushed the limits on it to know what I can really do.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it's like, you know, getting in the car with you and just watching the way that, you know, your eyes connect to the steering wheel or the way that you're aware of your surroundings. It's like,
You were studying everything.
I
Like, that
popped
was
up.
fantastic.
And it's like,
Mm.
there was a trust established in that few seconds because you know that somebody that puts that amount of attention to detail and passion into an outlet, that you're safe because they wouldn't put you in that situation if they weren't that passionate about it.
That's it. Yeah.
It's like,
So I never put anybody in an unsafe situation that, I mean, my motorsport started with demo derbies. So I know what cars can take. I know how safe they are. I know how they're built. You know, I know that you can survive in crashes and bits and pieces at different speeds and whatnot. So it's like I know what we're able to do in them and how to be safe doing it.
that's
So it's like I never want to put anyone in harm's way
you know,
at all.
on the flip side of that, it's like I've lost too many friends behind the wheel now.
Mm.
Or there might have been freak accidents, or you know, sometimes it does come down to reckless emotionals. Like, you never know what the context is, but you have a split second to make that
Yep.
decision, and you know, you're like, it's equally a safe place, but it's a safe place that you control, and that can become a dangerous place very quickly. You know, we've all thought about it. It's like, it could be a beautiful day, you could be happy, but in the back of your mind, you know, if you pull that steering wheel or if you slip or something, that you have the power to do that. You know, it's a heavy thought to come to terms with, but once you think it, it never goes away.
The thing is, you've got to kind of accept it as well. You can't ignore it.
That's it.
Mm.
Like, I mean, like with our track day event, you know, 2 days before the event, we unfortunately got shut down due to safety concerns. And, you know, coming from no background experience in motorsport, it made no sense to me at the time why they would let us run up such a massive campaign and then take it away, you know, with not a lot of context. But now looking back, it makes sense. You know, we've done the training days, we've done the track
Yep.
time,
Mm-hmm.
but it takes a lot of people in a community to make sure one person doesn't get hurt.
Would you say scrutiny and brand damage resulted as an outcome of that?
I think
There was a lot of monetary loss.
there was a lot of monetary
Oh, dear.
loss. There was a lot of emotional weight. It was actually one of the most, you know, emotional times for me because I took a leap of faith with my confidence. And being a little bit of an introvert, it was the first time I kind of came out publicly with what I was passionate about. And I just kind of had no idea why or what I had done wrong and how to explain that and how many people I had let down because it meant so much to me and it meant so much to everybody else to have that one shot to just blow off steam.
Yeah.
And I guess 24 hours before we announced that the track day had been postponed, we had a backup meet to just a friend open up his workshop at the time, which was the Flex Fitness workshop.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember being at home and being like, no, that's me done. I've got to move cities. It's over. And I didn't leave my house. I was late to my own meet.
Yeah.
I think I was trying to get my car ready or one of the cars washed at the time. And my mum calls me a little bit tearing up.
Oh, yeah?
And she had got to the DIY garage pre-meet. So before that, we had lined up 3 events just to try keep people entertained. You know, we were like, all right, we can't give you a track, but let's give you something to
There's
do.
a few different spaces.
Yeah, and man, everybody came together for that. And my mum called me, and she was just like, you need to get down here right now. And it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and yeah, Malaga was already packed out. So I think we would estimate about 150 cars showed up to that event, and we didn't really know what we were doing because it was
No.
only 24 hours.
It was a really quick turnaround to have to move everything that was organized.
Everything.
Mm-hmm.
Seemed
And
really well planned, if you ask me, honestly.
like, we were lucky. I think I was lucky to have a lot of people understand the emotional connection that I had to looking forward for that day
Mm.
and what it meant to me coming out of a really bad space with my mental health to just look forward to that event.
Yeah.
So to see that many people show up regardless of what had happened, regardless of how much money was lost getting ready for track days,
Yep.
like
Jesus.
it
Cars
was,
and flights and all kinds.
yeah, I
Was
think
this out of your own personal finances, Ariel, or did you manage to get sponsors, family members on board?
so. The track hire cost was out of my own finances.
Oh, wow.
But
Yep.
everybody getting ready for the track day. For example, Jeremy Shannon had put about $7,000 getting his cars ready,
Him and his sons.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yep.
and that went out the
Because they're
window.
a team.
Are they your guys? Are
6
they
or
the guys that
6'9".
you sponsor or something like that?
Yeah.
Oh,
we,
nice.
we support them
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
basically go to William. He's been doing competition drifting.
Yeah.
at
Our
the moment.
17-year-old little superstar.
Yep, he's fantastic. And he actually most recently has lost his license, so he can.
Oh, dear.
Oh, yeah.
I think
Little
he just got
rascal,
it.
or you tell me?
Has he gotten it back?
He just got his license and then he lost it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For being a little rascal on the streets.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think
So-
that's a big thing with all of us. We're all seen a little bit as role models. We all have our own little audiences. And I think all of us now experience that. We have had friends or we've had our own personal experiences where when it comes down to losing your license, dealing with police, I think all three of us share very similar values when it comes to how we communicate with the police. It's on a term of mutual respect. We treat them like people.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very big thing in these days because we've grown up with like this rap culture or whatever culture where it's instilled that police are pigs and you should always F off to them. But
But it's they respect the respect that you give them.
At the end of the day, they're just doing their job.
Correct.
You know, there are black and white laws to follow.
Mhm.
I think it was, with my charge, it was anything over 40 kilometers over the speed limit is done as a reckless charge.
45.
45,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm.
And that's the law. You know, it's up to me to know those laws before I get onto the road and I do what I do. But it's
You never
can't-
really think of it either because that realistically on a track, 45 kilometers an hour is not that big of a difference.
That's it. And I mean, if you look at school zones, or if you look at, you know, your residential areas, it's really easy to be 45 k's over the limit. But you have a duty to follow those rules.
Yeah, and a duty of care for everybody else on the roads as well.
Exactly. Like with my incident, I hadn't, you know, you don't think about it, but it was like 4 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon. And I was just on my way home, but you don't think about that as being peak hour traffic. You don't think about that as being, you know, the last bit of the school run, you know, where parents are tired, other people on the road are going through things. You know, you're not the only one that's trying to get home right now.
Yeah, that's correct. And a lot of other people don't have the attention to be looking out for everything else on the road at the same time.
And neither should they be expected
No.
to. Like, when you run into that situation where, you know, it's the first time you've been hit with bumping into the police, being associated with cars, it's frustrating because it pops the bubble of fun around, yep, I've just got my license, or this is my freedom, or this is my vehicle for me to do what I want.
Oh, I remember that.
But it shapes you. It's a part of life. It's a part of learning, and it's a part of growing up.
Yeah, exactly. Growing up, that's a big part of it. Like in my community, I was known for being a bit of an idiot on the streets. Like,
Tell us more about that, Rodney.
oh man, it was hilarious when I launched Hood Rat. Everyone started coming out of the woodwork with their own opinions and everything. It's like people can change. I learnt my lessons. You know, I used to be one of the impulsive people at car meets and stuff, doing skids and dumb things on the street. Limiter bashing, revving, burnouts, blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, I knew car control, but it's not an excuse
Yeah.
at all.
And I don't want to get you convicted, but I'm assuming that may or may not have been on private property.
Oh, no, it's definitely a fair few years ago now. And
yeah.
I was convicted for certain things that I had
Yeah.
done. So no, it wasn't on private property.
Yeah.
And that's why now everything is. And that rolls on to kind of why I started with what I'm doing.
I think so.
Is that, I'd learnt my lessons after being caught hooning, as they say, with the laws and everything now. At the same time as heaps of other mates and ex-mates that had done the same.
Yeah.
Because there used to be I don't know if there still are, because I stay out of those communities if there are, hoon meets.
Yeah.
But, they used to be pre-organised every now and then.
Yeah.
You go out to certain areas and do your stuff. Most of the time they are, out of residential. Well, that was kind of the rules.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of just weren't able to, because residential areas grow bigger
Yeah.
and it's unsafe.
Yeah. I think I've always studied like criminal communities, you could say, the graffiti scene or anything to do with cars. And something that I tend to notice when it comes to anything strictly illegal is obviously like the people who are out there to do no good. But then there's the people who have that common set of values, but maybe they're just having a rough time in life or they need some outlet. And something that I keep on noticing is that there's usually a code of values within any underground scene which may not be seen like legal or favourable. Would you agree?
100%.
Definitely,
100%.
yes.
Yes. I think in graffiti there's all the guys who are deep into that scene will probably ridicule me and probably making it too democratized. So they're going to be, graffiti's mainstream, and I shouldn't even be saying graffitiing. I should be saying things like
Tag
writing. Scribbling.
So, like, in my opinion, it's all artwork at the end of the day. It's a creative outlet. Like, it's a metaphor for something that you're fighting for.
Yes.
And it's something that some people are ready to explain and some people are still trying to come to terms with but feel comfortable in that space.
I agree.
I most recently had actually a 5-year-old kid come to the compound who loves cars. His dad brought him.
Nice.
And he was looking down at the road and he's like, those are those smoky road scribbles. And it's artwork.
Burnouts.
Yeah, that's what he called them. Yeah, the burnout marks and the drift marks on the pavement were smoky road scribbles. It was just so cute. I was like, I would never think that. Thank you, 5-year-old brain.
Single peggers, what are those?
Oh, God. We don't talk about single peggers.
Like, for me, I was never allowed to drive like a high performance vehicle. Like a lot of the people in my family, it's a male-dominated family, and being very much of a princess, if I get hit behind the wheel, it's the end of the world. You can't get married, you can't get a scar, you can't do this, you can't do that. And I was that girl that would be holding, the flashlight whenever my dad worked on the car.
Oh, yeah.
And getting yelled at that it wasn't in the right spot.
Yeah, but never got the chance. Would watch what was being demonstrated, but would have to go back to YouTube or back to Google to actually figure out what was being done to the vehicle. So I spent a lot of my time more studying cars than actually working on them.
Okay.
But the one thing I was allowed to do was fiddle with my sound system. And my game plan with that was, to pack as much sound into the car so I could deafen the fact that it was a stock 86. So your audio, lighting, your little show car mods were always where I lit up because I can, I know how to solder or set up an amp or to hook up a subwoofer or something like that. But, now that we've bulldozed through that first boundary of girls can't be mechanics,
Which they can.
And
there are many of them now.
I've ripped my car apart 6 months ago and I don't know what to do with it because, there's so many things to choose from and there's so many places to start, but...
Too many options.
There's too many options. It's a wonderland of things that you can do to your vehicle, whether you're building it to, participate on track or to just be a show car. What I want to do with my car is it to just be an Icon 86 that makes kids excited to see a little race car.
Yes.
That's what I'm going for because that's what I used to light up to see when I was a kid. It wouldn't matter how fast the car was.
No, it doesn't because they don't know.
No. It's if it has flashy lights on it and it makes sounds, I'm happy. That's all it takes to see me smile.
Underglow.
Underglow, yeah.
Oh, Underglow's got to make a comeback.
It kind of is. I remember.
I'm seeing it more often.
Yeah, I like it. I'm a fan. Just the police aren't, I don't think.
I mean, they are if you do it properly.
So
Yeah,
no
that's
red and
true.
blue.
There's rules and there's regulations for stuff.
Which you
I
can
read out the
download for
papers.
free off the internet.
Mhm.
I mean, you know, the resources are there. They're not trying to stop us from doing these things, but we just need to learn how to do it.
Yeah, yeah. We've
Quick
got to do it the
briefer.
right way.
I think the main rule is nothing intimidating police for starts. No blue and red lights.
Oh, yeah, no, do not put police or patrol down the side of your car and have cop lights on the roof.
What's the story with that
And
actually?
especially don't do skids on the street with it.
Do you want to elaborate on that story, or do you reckon leave that to the community?
Oh,
expo?
the community's already, called out a few people for this, and I get it all the time. But yeah, just don't impersonate people and make it look like you're a cop doing burnouts,
Yeah,
because they don't really like that.
yeah.
And
Government,
will shut down part of events and shut down a bunch of other stuff.
yeah, the Queen, the Crown is nothing to be reckoned with.
No, no. It's they like to be who they are, and they don't like people impersonating them.
It goes back to that unspoken moral code. I mean, like, we know what we're trying to do when we bend the rules with cars, so
There are grey areas.
yeah, don't push your luck.
Mm.
Don't be cheeky,
It's
you know?
just don't be stupid. You know?
And I mean, like, if you look at it on the other side of things, there are so many police officers that also use racing as a outlet.
Mm.
You know, like, it's interesting to know that cops will book out their own race day, but how come we're not invited? You know,
And back in the day, as we hear many more stories, we know cops. Some of them used to be hoons.
yeah,
You know, and they are honest and genuine about it, and it's very contradictory to the job and the positions that they're in, but people change.
that's it. I mean, like, it takes an experienced cop to take on that role, knows what they're dealing with when they face the younger crowd of, hoons. They know what's at risk, and sometimes it does take somebody playing the bad guy. You know, it's always good cop, bad cop. There's always somebody that needs to uphold that intensity, but there's always somebody that also understands what we're going through.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like, when I got pulled over, I had to call my dad, and I was that girl that was bawling her eyes out, like, Dad, they're taking my car away. I don't know what I'm going to do. And
Because that would have been direct impound straight away.
straight away,
Yeah.
took my keys on the spot. So I was
That's it.
70 Ks over the limit on an unregistered vehicle because I don't pay my reg, my dad does.
Oh, yes.
That girl.
Mm-hmm.
But, yep, called Dad crying, and he pulls up, and the first thing he does is interrogate the cop on why me.
Oh, my God.
And I get it. I get it. But at the same time, it was my fault. How do we get around it? Well, I had to go stand in court and say, I'm guilty, but can I not be? You know, like, try to plead with the court. But
Yeah.
no, that's not how things work.
No,
And I don't regret it. It taught me some of the most valuable lessons because that whole 2 years that I had to sit at home and do nothing, I got to study what the laws were and what the psychology was. And coming back to ADHD and a bit of mental health, like, I was on 70 milligrams of dexamphetamines at the time. You never really think about how your actual neurology or your chemistry in your body affects.
It affects so much.
Like-
Your decisions, your decision making. Like,
That's it. It's like I had struggled with temper and impulsivity with my behavior, and the medication had obviously stopped me lashing out in public or lashing out in general. But it channeled into me driving more recklessly, and I never picked up on it until the car got impounded, and you put the two together in an equation.
that's a very good point.
And it's like ADHD and cars go hand in hand. But knowing how to control your medication or just being aware that it has an effect on how you react. Like if somebody were to try express road rage at me and I was on medication at the time, it would be like, all right, let's go. You know, what are we doing? You know, are we,
Yep.
is it a chase down? What are we doing?
Because it allows you to react a bit quicker.
Exactly.
In
And you
bits
get
and
excited
pieces.
for it. It's a
Oh,
dopamine hit. It's straight
That's the whole
dopamine.
thing with ADHD is you're missing dopamine because your brain doesn't make enough of it on its own.
That's it. So cars are the essential platform to find that dopamine.
It's
hit.
instantaneous dopamine. As soon as you put that throttle down,
Exactly.
that's it. It's like, oh, I get something from this. Oh, I might do it again.
Yeah.
Oh, there's another hit.
I must give props to you too, because I remember the police meeting that we had, and you guys raised this point. And for the whole room, all these experienced guys who'd been hosting meets forever, all these old blokes, these senior guys, nothing against their age.
Oh, no. Like,
They just have a lot more experience than us.
they've been doing this for a lot longer than us. The community doesn't really change, which is fun to see.
And even we got it from the constables. The second you guys, both of you mentioned that point and you elaborated further on it, it was the first time they'd ever seen something like this from that frame. I think ever.
And it's so interesting because I mean, the last time I checked the statistics, about 11% of road-related injuries are what they call, accidental, no, hidden suicide. Sorry.
Yep.
So it's called a hidden suicide, where you can't actually tell what the conditions of the accident were because of the way that it panned out. But a lot of the time, it's heavy medications or it's somebody coming home from the emergency room. Something like that. There is so much more context to what happens on the road that we don't investigate.
Let's see. I mean, if someone's drugged up, that's another story. But coming from that age with their own prescriptions, or they're coming over from something, that is definitely something to look into.
With psychiatry or any prescription medication, usually you spend about 10 minutes with your psychiatrist, you get a script and you walk out the door.
Yep.
It's up to your psychologist or a different doctor to then explain to you how that medication works. But once you're out that door, you have that stimulant, you have that effect in your body, and it's up to you to figure out whether you want to understand that or not.
Because as well, each body and each person reacts differently to any kind of medication and any kind of stimulant.
Substance, food.
That's it.
Yeah.
Light
So
weights.
it's not a one size fits all. It's not a thing that one person can explain and go, okay, if you take this, you're going to get all of these side effects, which then you could get none of them.
That's it.
When it came to that police meeting, I think we all are very aware that the people usually charged court are that demographic. Do any of you guys remember the age demographic? I'd probably say 18 to
24.
18 to 25. So that is a massive,
Especially when their brains are still developing.
and it was more catered towards men, wasn't it? Or you wouldn't call them men, you'd call them boys at this age.
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
So yeah, it definitely ties into that developing male brain. But I would argue that it doesn't matter what gender as well. Ariel, you've probably seen it with a few of the people you've encountered.
Like girls, even though they might not talk about it as much, we all feel the same way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we might not have the opportunity to push our cars the same way or feel as open about that relationship, but it's there. You know, cars are a part of our lives every day. It doesn't matter whether you're 16 years old or 60 years old. You're either, you see them every day or you're driving them every day.
The thing with that as well is boys usually are a lot more boisterous and loud. So they're easy to pick out as to having these mental, not disabilities, diagnoses and bits and pieces rather than girls.
Yeah.
It's a fact that's been studied over years.
I think it's in the animal kingdom as well, right?
Yeah.
Ducks, the male ones have like the feathers on them, the colourful feathers to attract the attention. Ties into that, I think.
Yeah.
Like I was the naughtiest kid in school, suspensions to expulsions to, I think I went to 14 schools throughout my whole life. I just jumped around, but that's, between different countries and things like that. So I always struggled with identity, finding a place to fit in. And there was a point where it was like, I don't want to fit in anymore. I'm just going to do the opposite of what everybody does and make that work because I didn't know how to fit in. And I remember, I think the first time I saw a psychiatrist for behavioral issues, I was 13 years old. And they were like, there is nothing wrong with you, go home, rah, rah, rah. And it ended up getting really, really bad. And my second review was when I think I got diagnosed with ADHD. So that was years later, after high school, after getting into all of the trouble, being told that, no, hold on a second. You fall into that gap where it didn't present in your outburst of behavior when you were in school. But you can see it in the way that that's grown as you have. So it turned into, anger outbursts or just not feeling accepted or detached from the community. And, as a result of that, you don't only get diagnosed with ADHD. There's BPD, borderline personality disorder. There's a lot of things that string on from not understanding ADHD. And in that 2 years where I didn't have my license, all I had to do was dive into understanding that and coming to terms with my wiring.
Yeah, that's a very good point. 'Cause I was diagnosed with ADHD at about 6 years old.
Yeah.
And that's the whole thing with boys being boisterous and whatnot. So it's way easy to pick out. But back then, my family didn't know what ADHD was.
That's it.
They were basically told, oh, yeah, your kid will need to take these pills.
And the thing is, ADHD is hereditary.
Yeah, it doesn't go away. It comes in through the generations.
That's it.
And so with that, it was take pills. And then at about 14, I was like, well, you never told me why I needed to. You never explained any of this. Why does no one else have to take these
Yeah.
every day? Why do I have to be that one kid that has to take all of this stuff? And so I stopped.
Yeah.
Then everything showed up. But at that stage, you're not really that self-aware. I then got re-diagnosed after losing my license and all of that big period,
Yeah.
and re-explained as to what ADHD actually is and how it affects my physiology and my neurology. And then all the dots lined up.
So you had a few years where you were off medication.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then that was probably like, I don't know, kid on
A
crayons.
good 4 to 6 years.
Oh, dear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Things spiraled out of control, or did you
Oh.
have anything?
I was very classic ADHD. I did 4 years worth of TAFE work in a month because I just didn't feel like doing it in the 4-year period.
Wait, so you got super productive?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Hyperfocusing.
That's it, hyper-focusing.
Wow.
And that fear of deadlines is like, if you have the deadline, you're not going to do it until the day before. So a fair few things like that had shown up, and especially with all the, the hooning and bits and pieces and whatnot, and the want for adrenaline.
Yeah.
It's like my first driving experience was in a demolition derby.
Oh,
And
nice.
that just happened to come about because like family and friends, and it was actually my manager that got me into it before I was like driving. He's like, yep, come down. You're the type of kid that needs this. And
Fun
then,
experience.
yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
It's then what kept me going back to cars.
Definitely. Well, it's coming close to a time for, say, an hour. It's almost 9 o'clock, and I do want to have my solo interviews with both of you guys. So you're welcome to sit in. But I think we've had a really good sprint. I'd love to have you guys back on the show. Do want to interview some other people in the industry as well. So I think this has been an awesome start. Going to have some good content that you guys can share with your followers to get to learn a bit more about yourselves. And I'd just like to say one other thing. When it does come to things like ADHD, I do also share a similar path. So my path has been a bit more self-prescribed until I realised that I could find an avenue through the legal system. So anything like that, I'm sure there's a lot of similarities between all of us. And end of the day, I think the way that we look at it is that we're all suffering under a system. And the system is very much a system designed to protect people. At the same time, when we talk about the government, police, kids and anything like that, the way I like to look at it is very much we are people end of the day. The governments are systems, and there's nothing wrong with the systems from a people-centric view. But end of the day, the systems can't run the people. The people have to run the systems. So that's how I like to leave it. Let's end on that. If you guys want to plug up any events that you guys have coming up, feel free to. Now's your chance.
Yeah, so we've got DIY Garage up on August 28th, and that is the pre-meet for Uncle Ken's biggest car show.
Oh, yes.
So we've got a bit of mental health resources and some support coming down.
Sure.
We'll try to bring down as much help and open up that conversation as much as we can at that event. And our big event being September 17th at the Raceway is our one and only shot to really get a secure events management team together and trained so we can go ahead and start opening up more free track access.
Awesome. So just to be clear, you've got 2 events coming up.
Yep.
One is on the 17th of September,
Yep.
and the other one is
A pre-meet for the Uncle Ken's
Biggest
car show
Oh,
on
car meet.
August.
biggest car meet.
Biggest car meet
Yep.
on August 28th.
August 28th. Awesome. We'll see you there, Errol.
And we will be tagging along
Yeah,
to
you'll be there.
all of these
Yep.
events.
The Hood Rat Boys.
Yep.
Awesome.
So pretty much most of the crew will be. Now, with us, we're still waiting to find
Your
more
property.
spots.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And
More
Rodney, you've
private
got some other
property.
things to share with me on the solo podcast, I'm sure, with where you're going and where your new strategy is with Hood Rat.
Mm.
So I'll be keen to hear about that. Well, that just about sums it up. Thanks so much, guys, for coming on the show. I really
Thanks, Ken.
appreciate it. You guys have provided me with plentiful opportunities, and I want to make sure I can return the same back to you guys over time.
Appreciate it.
Definitely.
Thanks, guys. Love you lots.
Thank you.
Love you too, mate.
Let's finish it.